And with me in the studio now is William Engdahl, who is an economist, author, and a strategic analyst. But speaking of sanctions, of course, it is important to ask that question here in the context of Russia's business and how sanctions affect Russia and the businesses that operate here, both Russian, domestic, and international. So what are your thoughts on this?
For Russia, I think it's a mixed balance sheet. On the one hand, I think it's given a beautiful opportunity for Russia to concentrate on its internal resources for the first time since the collapse of the Soviet Union, namely the most remarkable being the agriculture sector and the rebirth of Russian agriculture in a qualitatively new way because of the ban on GMO, genetic manipulated organisms, and the concentration on natural agriculture. So Russia, I read recently, just a few days ago, is now the number one wheat exporter, not the United States, in the world. And it's clean wheat, it's beautiful, GMO-free.
So in other words, Russia is managing somehow, some way to turn minuses into pluses.
Yeah.
But what about the other way around? I mean, how the sanctions affected the West, Europe, and America, for example, because they hit both ways, right?
Yeah. Well, the sanctions hit German industry very heavily. The Siemens and the big German corporations that were, Russia was one of their boom export areas up until the sanctions. And the leaders of German industry pleaded with Merkel. Unfortunately, I think Angela Merkel is listening to different voices since 2 or 3 years than she listened to before. And how that works, nobody in Germany can quite figure out, but they're very alarmed at it. And it's hurting Germany more than it's hurting Russia. Same with France and other countries.
Okay, so what is the way out of the situation then? How can the relations between Russia and the West eventually normalize? What would it take?
It would take an American administration dedicated to the cause of peace and not war. And the two candidates who I see standing in the coming elections in November, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, are not going to do that. So it would take a dramatic shift in the power calculus inside the American establishment, a dramatic shift where they realize we're bankrupt, all our strategies have failed, all our wars in the Middle East have failed, Syria we have failed, Libya we have failed, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But I don't see that Hillary Clinton is made clear that she stands for more war, more war, more war. Destroy Russia, destroy Russia, destroy Russia. So it's irrational. It's like the collapse of the British Empire, World War I.
Well, let's leave geopolitics aside for a while and concentrate on economics. We mentioned Iran earlier, that opening up of the country will affect the economic landscape in many countries. So how do you see that changing? I
see almost by a force of nature coming together, electromagnetic or whatever, is what I call a golden triangle of Russia, China, and Iran now, creating a zone of economic cooperation and prosperity. The high-speed One Belt, One Road that China has proposed to Russia and the Eurasian Economic Union last year, and linking these economies for the first time in history. This didn't happen during the Soviet era, and doing it with economic infrastructure, and this is the most beautiful thing. I wrote an article a while back called "My Advice is Go East, Young Man, Don't Go West," opposite of what 100 years ago Horace Greeley said in America. And that is really the case. The future of Europe, the future of Eurasia is in this eastern, it's the largest population in the world. Russia has the largest land area of any nation on earth, the biggest piece of real estate, all the natural resources. You can collateralize any credit that the state wants to emit to build infrastructure and make new markets. And this is slowly beginning to happen. And I think people are beginning to understand Russia is sitting on the crown jewel of the planet, of the world. And China is willing to cooperate with that, and now Iran joins it. They're talking about gold-backed currencies. Russia's the number 2 or number 3 gold producer in the world. China is the number 1, no longer South Africa. South Africa is in very bad shape for gold. And they're talking about building the railway links to bring the gold of Central Asia to the market. This is beautiful.